Message to all the neurospicy Christian mystics out there: you are not alone. Hi, this is my channel. Welcome to Coffee with Avila. I guess I always say hey la, kind of made that up, or at least in my mind I made it up. Hey la, welcome to Coffee with Avila. I'm Aviana Lemire, and on this channel we discuss neurodivergence, greater living, and I'm having a lot of experiences now. Oh great, my battery's almost gone. I don't know, we'll see what's going to happen. I'm having a lot of experiences now because I've recently come out to myself as being a mystic, which I have always been, but it's the deciding factor between my experience and the average experience, the common experience. And I had no idea until recently in life that this was very rare. And now I'm in a place where I'm running into people. Mostly I have experienced maybe a handful of Christian mystics, and I'm not sure at this point that any of the ones I've personally experienced have not been neurodivergent, which is kind of amazing, because my belief, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that God created your brain in order to function with your mind, your spirit, your soul. It's an interface between what you are meant to be and the world in which you are meant to be it. So it's very fascinating to me. We process things in a very different way, and I see that from a spiritual perspective because that's just me and it's part of my personal capacity. And I'm kind of amazed because 2 days ago I came across someone who is, and I keep coming across autistic and ADHD Christian mystics, and my mind is blown because I felt like I'm the only one. And I came across another one and I cried. And for some reason I just feel like telling anyone who wants to hear it and anyone who listens, we are not alone. So I can tell you from my experience, I felt like I was alone even when I was with another Christian mystic, because it was someone who had been through a lot and they took a really strong approach to dismissing me. And to begin with, they loved everything, but over time it morphed into hating it all and being afraid of it all and thinking it started off as, you're gifted, you're blessed, here are the different characters in the Bible that you're like, God has gifted you. And then because of their personal trauma, as I watched their life unfold and more trauma take place that was based on the original things, they started to tell me it was all witchcraft and it was all satanic, and suddenly everything God had given me was this horrendous threat to their entire belief and the world as they saw it. And it's really frightening, I'm sure, to be in that position. However, I'm in a place in my life at 41 where I'm finally able to process how frightening it was to be in my position and to be who I am and to feel completely alone. And one of my gifts as an ADHDer, which I guess is the ADHD influence, and I love this about me, is my emotions. And so I'm able to feel, and I think that's a very important part of how God made me. I'm able to feel deeply, and I feel overwhelmed sometimes by sadness, but sometimes I'm overwhelmed by glee. I have the entire gamut. And when I grieve with my whole body and my spirit and every part of my soul. And when I am overjoyed, I feel joy in every cell, and it lifts off of me and encircles me, and I am impassioned with the beauty of that joy and that happiness in every way. And so when something has harmed me and made me frightened to be who I am, the fear hits me with the same capacity. All of the emotions, whether they feel very bad or very good. And what I've been processing recently is the juxtaposition between hiding, because I was in that kind of fear, because everything about me was supposed to be so terribly wrong, and coming out to be something, just about anything you can be in life. Somebody is going to love and appreciate it, and someone is going to hate and despise it. And there's a sick sort of It feels kind of sick, but there's a sick sort of natural duality in that, because there's always a flip side to the stone, I'm going to say. For some reason, I'm going for coin, but I've got stone. There's always a flip side to the stone. And that's funny because it makes me think of those river rocks, the little pebbles that you pick up, and I'm picturing one that's maybe the size of the center of my palm. And you can pick them up and kind of rub them like a thumb stone, a meditative thing, a prayer type of a thing. And I'm picturing that, and I'm thinking, it always has both sides. And very often there will be an indentation on one side where you can get your thumb in it and rub, and then there will be it'll be concaved on one side, and then it'll be convexed on the others, where you can still rub it, but you're going to be rubbing over that mound of rock the way it has formed. And I'm just picturing this because it makes sense when everything in life is a self-proof of duality. If you can see it, and I can see it. But at the same time, I think it's kind of sick, because while you're coming to love yourself, sometimes that journey involves that duality of coming to hate yourself. And there have been times in my life, because my approach was to be peaceful, to be quiet. I was in a bad situation. I had to hide a lot. I hid everything because hiding everything was how I survived, and it's how I protected my loved ones. And you can't control an abuser like that, but I could control what was happening through God, because I was doing what I was told, and I was following the instincts God gave me. And I ended up surviving a life where there were many attempts on my life. I'm having an experience right now where there's someone I have known and I have loved, and I keep having a conversation, but it's the same conversation, and it's what we have with everyone. This is what I'm speaking to us as ADHD, or an autistic, ADHD. I'm speaking to the Neurospicy Christian mystics, because we need to know specifically, as the particular group of who we are not alone. And part of the reason why I speak is because I want people to know you are not just one. If someone comes across me and they believe they're the only one in the world who has a similar experience, maybe I can offer the proof that you are not alone in the way that these other people. And I still want to cry, because I've spent my life thinking I have to be the only one. And it feels so incredibly alone. And we know why we're doing it. And we know something no one else can know. The Gnostic sensation of a God that's willing to prove itself to us in such a strong and powerful way that nothing beneath that can possibly shake it, because it's bigger than everything everyone else has to say, do, explore, experience, offer. Our experience and our knowledge is something that is so powerful that people are triggered when they walk by. And I keep having this conversation, I'm saying, where someone is unable to stop telling me lies to my face about my beliefs, and then telling me opinions about them. And as much as I wish I could get through to everyone, I don't know if this is something I came up with or something I heard at some point, but I know at some point in my life I felt compelled to say, I can explain it for you, but I can't understand it for you. And at some point in life, we do have to accept, to be healthy with our bent in life and what our focus is, it's going to be a part of our spirit and our gift. Because if we have this, we have a gift, and it's here for a reason. It's here for a reason that probably involves a great deal of challenges, but it is not a mistake. You do not have this for no reason. You have been chosen to have these experiences for a reason. And I would love to be able to make everything so clear, with such clarity, with such truth, that people can understand it. But as the Christian mystics, when we tell someone the truth repeatedly and they cannot process it, and they continue to repeat literally the same words, the same shop-worn lies, specifically about Christianity and our Christian God, the God of Christ, about Christ, we know why that's happening. And I offer my condolences for the experiences that we might have in our hearts when it's happening, because the feelings are complex to the point where I will not begin to express them, because I have no idea how, and I'm trying to carry on with my main point. I don't really know what my main point is. I feel compelled to speak, and I feel compelled because there's a power in knowing that we are not the only ones going through something. There's a power in knowing that when you've had a conversation with someone who can usually process information on paper and mere words and anyone else's story and anything they say, no matter how absurd or how much they're living underneath what our life's bent is to rise above, when that person can understand anything on paper and any words, and they cannot hear you for years, no matter how many times you speak or how many times you repeat it over the course of a few days, they cannot hear you. We know why that is happening. And I have every conceivable condolence for the sensation of talking to a wall that you know has a true pure human being behind it with an amazing heart and a really well-functioning mind that cannot feel and cannot think on this one subject, especially about you, about us, about me in general. There are a series of convenient lies, and we have all heard them all or encountered them if our life has involved enough information, enough people, if you've had enough conversations, you've read enough books, watched enough videos, visited enough blogs, if you've seen enough, definitely, blockbuster movies and primetime TV episodes, you've heard all of the lies, you've seen them printed in the newspapers, you know what this world is, and you know what is going on in this time. And you have probably experienced your version of whatever is coming. And I know how maddening it can be when someone who can usually process the information can't process that. But like I said, we know why that's happening. We know why suddenly a crackerjack mind just turns into a lump of clay that cannot be molded because it's been out drying in its one shape for too long and no one took care of it, and it's now just one big mold of boulder on that subject. And it's shocking. And I'm just using that motivation to come in here and once again say, this experience, I truly have been through the ringer for decades. I've thought it up and down. I've considered conversion. I've considered believing in nothing. I've been this close to being an agnostic because at the very least, I can admit that I don't 100% know everything, but I'm not the one capital letter God, and I'm not meant to. At the same time, I kind of want to. My life's bent is to understand. I want to listen to more people. I want to listen to more things. And I'm having an experience right now where I can get out of myself and listen to anyone who believes anything. I've listened to things. I used to have a personal motto that I would say to myself: if you have a story and you would like to tell it, I want to hear it. And I have listened to things that go way beyond just theoretical differences in belief or philosophy. I have listened to criminals speaking of horrendous things. I've listened to people speaking of the most horrendous acts that some people can imagine, hear about in the news, or protest against and try to protect their loved ones from, especially their minor loved ones. I've listened to everything because I want to understand everyone, and because my personal bent and my personal gift in life is to hear, to process, and to understand. And I put that together with some other gifts that I have been given where I can see the obvious, but it's obvious in another realm, and it isn't particularly obvious here for most people. And I do this for understanding, because the call on my life involves understanding on a level that is rare. So it's really being shown to me right now, and I'm processing it hard. because what I'm running into in my personal life right now is a situation where the complete opposite of that is at me. And I'm being told constantly that I have a million, many lies. It's always something that makes me out to be an idiot, but it's not about making me out to be an idiot. Someone is telling me repeatedly what I believe about my faith. And I'm constantly saying that's not what I believe. And furthermore, you don't have a right to tell me what I believe because you've never asked me. And this is not even slightly your knowledge set. But then I get a moment to take myself back and process the incredible juxtaposition between someone lost in a vacuum of their own repeated beliefs, who can never get out of it and is trapped inside of a bunch of words that do not service them and in fact destroy them. And I can appreciate the magnificence of being the total opposite of that, to the point where I will sometimes hurt my own feelings with my capacity to understand and shift my beliefs, because you're constantly in flux. When what you do is about learning and understanding, you're in a constant state of growth, and that growth can hurt. That growth can hit you hard, and it can be a level of growing pains that shoots through your body, like that sadness or that joy or that fear that I was talking about earlier. And instead of just being an amazing pleasure, because there is a juxtaposition to that, it could be an amazing pleasure listening to music that just hits you and gives you that frisson sensation everywhere. Or you could be having an experience where, like I've been having, you suddenly feel loved in a way you've never experienced before, and you could have missed because of the challenges of your previous life. Somebody recently told me I'd be better off finishing it, because in their mind, they don't see a way out of the stuff in my life that's a challenge. And it's really amazing how all that did was shine a spotlight on how limited they are where they are, which is saddening. But I got past how sad I was for them, and I started to process how the conversation had affected me after a few days. And I realized, actually, all that does is highlight all of my amazing blessings. Because having someone tell you a pure lie straight to your face when you're capable of seeing the truth, when you're capable of juxtaposing that one convex side of the river rock with the concaved side of it, and understanding that each side has a purpose and a use, and it formed that way for a reason. All it does when someone highlights one side and says, you're nothing but a hole in a rock and you'll never be, and there's nothing there but something where random stuff can get trapped and just never roll away. Why, look, a spider fell into the little hole in your rock. Guess you're doomed to live with spiders everywhere for the rest of your life. That's really not the case, because in reality, even if that takes place, I have the understanding it takes to pick up the rock and slide it right out. I know the nature of it. I know the nature of its surface. And I know that if I decide I don't want it in there, I can shake it off, which is disgusting. It's a horrible thought, but I might or might not have ended up with a very disconcerting arachnoidal visitation the other day, and now they're all I can think about, so now they've worked into my metaphors. I'm trying really hard not to think of it that way, but all I can picture is a spider and a rock. I know how to pick up the rock and dump the spider out. And I know that if I don't want a spider to fall into the rock, then I can just turn it around the other way, so the next time something falls, be it a spider or a raindrop, it'll just roll off the other side naturally. I can process that, but someone else can't. And again, as Christian mystics, we know why this is happening. And if you're somebody who can look at someone and see something on them, I just want to acknowledge the experience of it, because it can be very overwhelming to see something on someone, not know why it's happening, and then not find out until weeks later. And I've been blessed recently because I found out, while there's still something I can do with my own prayer and my own belief and my own faith, I can still be who I am, and I can rise above the challenges and the triggers, and I can rise above knowing that my God is protecting me, but that there is a satanic entity that's trying to do the opposite. and I can take a series of conversations for the first time in my life that directly trigger some of the worst things I could ever be through. Let me rephrase. I can take a series of conversations that were directly meant to trigger the worst things I've ever been through, the worst things any of us have ever heard of or that are repeated on the news, the attempts against me, my loved ones. And instead of having that conversation scare the living crap out of me, I honestly just cared that the person who was saying it was okay, because I could see what was on them and I knew what they were going through was horrific. And I know I'm not going through that because I'm blessed, because my God has given me a reason to survive every time. And maybe I'll talk about that. I don't know. It's very weird for me since my faith was always under attack. I spent my entire life hiding it and not putting it out there. And it seems that what I'm experiencing right now is a time where that's not right for me anymore. And when I come across another autistic Christian mystic that I didn't know exists, I think this must be the time. This must have been what I was being honed for. I was being shaped like that river rock for just such a time that instead of being upside down where it's concaved and I catch every piece of hell that flies in my direction, I'm meant to remember it, be shaped and formed by it, and then choose to flip myself over so that all of this random crap falling from the sky can slide away. And let me take a sip. I think it's pretty obvious when my voice starts going bleh. I need something in. So I think I've switched into a place where I have both of these capacities now. I can roll over when there's something that I need to process and continue to be shaped by. And at the same time, I can roll over and protect myself and be shaped like a tortoise shell and let things slide off of me and continue to even shape me in that direction so I can let more things slide in the future. And I'm amazed because I heard words, I experienced messages flying at me just this past week that would have terrified me to the point where I wouldn't be able to function. And my only thoughts were the well-being of someone who's under the influence necessary to say that to a loving, supporting person who wants the absolute best for them. And I have come to find in my life the things I thought were patterns and stuff that was coming on me, where I thought I was attracting negative people and negative experiences and people that see me in bad ways and can't see who I truly am. That was a series of complexities based on being in someone else's life and someone else's world, and they brought their stuff around me and I had negative experiences. But when I'm out myself interacting and I'm out in the world of other spirits, other entities, other souls, people who have the capacity see me. And well, the truth is they all see me whether they're aware of it or not, because the spirit is working whether you're aware it's there or not. But that's stuff that we already know. So they're responding to me not because they can't see me, but because once they see me, whatever is working with them has its natural reaction, and my battery's flashing. I don't know if it's going to cut me off now, but I can't think of anything else to say on this subject, so maybe that's it. And if not, maybe I'll do the world's weirdest edit and continue this video in a few minutes, but I just want you to know you're not alone. And I believe we're made this way for a reason, the way I believe I am. And I don't know what our purposes are here, but I know they're as unique as we are as individuals, and mine is not yours and yours is not mine. Other people's, well, it doesn't matter. We're individual. Mine's not yours, yours isn't mine. It'll all be different. But somehow, ultimately, for us, it's all the same. And we are united and we are cohesive. And we are united in Christ. And that's something that can be powerful on this side as long as we know. And sometimes we have a moment where we can see it, so I hope this is a small candle somewhere that's been moved from beneath a bushel so those who need it can see it today. So, got nothing else to say, I guess. If you've got any thoughts, leave them in the comments. Remember to like, share the video if you think it'll get any use. Like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If there's subject matter in the spiritual, autistic, ADHD, even just random stuff that you don't get, I excel at just understanding stuff and people and how things are happening. So if there's stuff like that and you want someone to approach it and it's a gap in the community, put it in the comment section, and if I can, I might make it into a video. I think God is here for you, and that's why I'm speaking today. It's been placed on my heart to say. I don't know why I just had to say that, but there it is. And it's true. That's about it. Bye now.